Okay, well, I am really excited to have you on again. I really enjoyed last week's discussion. It was really nice, really awesome. So it's good to be back here again this week doing this. And I believe today we're going to be talking about sharing your story, using your voice, claiming your ground, stuff like that. How are you feeling today, Nick? How do you feel about the topic for today?
Hey, good to be back for round 3 of June. I'm excited to chat about this week's topic of using our voice to share our story. And yeah, last week was definitely a blessing chatting about presence. I really appreciate all of that. And I feel using our voice is a place that we can all connect to, and we all do have our own stories. And I really hope through this podcast today that we all find a sense of empowerment or perhaps a little more conviction to speak out loud some of the things that we might hold inside.
Mm-hmm. I kind of feel like the people who struggle the most to share their stories are the most important ones. There was this event that we went to called Resilience. It was about people who were addicted and whatnot. But this one guy went up and he was super nervous and shy, but he was like, I don't normally talk and I feel really uncomfortable. But he shared his story, and that was the story that everybody talked about after the event, was that one guy who was like afraid to share it, but he just like put himself out there and everybody loved it.
Wow. And he probably was so nervous, he probably didn't have one thought going on, and when it was done, he probably didn't even notice the time passed.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So it's interesting, you know, how you're super nervous and you feel like you're not going to do a good job, but
yeah,
it's kind of how life works.
We never really can know the result of something until we do it. And sometimes, fear, false evidence appearing real. Sometimes our emotions and feelings may close our mouth or hush down our voice.
Mm-hmm. So last week we did talk about kind of just being more in the moment, being in the present, and this is like the last few episodes we've done have been in an overarching theme of claiming your power. And so being present is part of that, and sharing your story is definitely a part of that. But before we kind of move into this sharing your story, claiming your voice topic, did you have anything you wanted to mention about last week's topic, being present in the moment?
Yeah, sure. Honestly, presence is such a foundational topic that anyone would benefit to dive into. And through our podcast of presence, I actually offered all of us some homework. And just wondering if anyone went through that homework. Don't worry, we won't be collecting anything.
We're going to give you grades.
But just to tap back into that, the homework was basically purposed toward cultivating a deeper sense of presence within our own experience, where it's like, it's actual, okay, this is what that feels like, as opposed to some kind of concept or thought form. And the homework was just basically multiple times a day, breathe very deeply, connect in with your body quickly, and simply let go of all attachments and attention for just 2 to 5 seconds. And feeling that space that is open there, and just doing that throughout the day. Really huge, really great. And it actually leads into our topic of this week because, cultivating that space of presence actually allows the body to relax and the brain to relax and all of our energy to kind of coalesce into a wholeness, balance, vibration. And then from there, we generally feel quite clear, or at least safe, to speak out loud and communicate the things that we wish to communicate and we usually have a general idea of where we would like to go with that communication, and then the presence even more refines the goal at hand, where we would like to go, and it potentially even allows us to communicate in a deeper way and potentially be more clear and easy to understand, as well as even having a better ability to listen and hear someone beyond their words. And I think hearing someone beyond their words is so important, because we may not always know the right thing to say. We may not always be patient enough to say the quote-unquote right thing. But as we can all agree, most people generally have an intention to do good. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that one thing that stops people from really expressing themselves fully is because they're thinking not in the present moment. They're thinking, what are people going to think when I say this thing? Are they going to think I'm weird or crazy? So they're like projecting their thoughts into the future. Or maybe they like thought back to a time where they did share their story and somebody made fun of them or something happened so they're like thinking backwards in time. So I'll kind of share a story of me in this specific scenario. There was an event in Michigan. It was a really like low key festival called Frequinox, and a bunch of people in the middle of the festival got together in a big circle, and it was like basically like an opening ceremony where like the person leading it kind of like opened space for people to share really anything that they wanted to. And at that moment, like I started to get nervous because I really wanted to go and share my story, but I started having kind of like thoughts of like, well, what if I mess up or look silly or say something silly? But because of where I was and I was just like feeling super inspired, I just basically like let go of all those thoughts. I basically jumped into the present moment. I basically like, it's almost like jumping into a cold lake where it's like, it's going to be cold. It's going to be refreshing. And it's really hard to do, but once you make that jump, you're just in it. And so I made that jump and I just walked into the center of this big circle with maybe 100 people around. And I was in it. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this. And I did it. And I felt freaking amazing after it. It was just so incredible how good I felt from letting go of fear, jumping into the moment and expressing myself and sharing my story.
That's very courageous, man. That takes a lot of power. Mm-hmm. And power doesn't have to mean we have a big, strong body. Power doesn't have to mean we're having a big, loud voice or a lot of money or accolades or whatever. It can be whoever, whatever, jumping into all of that in which you just explained. And I just think that's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's crazy. People are going to think I'm crazy or weird or silly, but then they do that thing. And then all of a sudden they find out like they said a lot of things that somebody wanted to say, but didn't, or maybe like a bunch of people resonated and came over to them afterwards. And like they met people that they wouldn't have and made these great connections just from being in the moment and sharing their story. It's so powerful.
Exactly. Yeah. And like it's really interesting too. Sometimes we don't open up in these ways because we are like, what would they think of me, et cetera, et cetera. Is my stuff valuable? Does it matter? Whatever. And also sometimes we come from more of an internal conflict with ourselves. Like, do I even want to say these things? Do I even care? Am I thinking correctly? And all of these different filters of the mind. And I just think it's so interesting how many different ways that our you could say throat chakra or communication systems can be like disempowered or turned off in some ways. Like it could come from us, or it could come from what we think about the outside.
Mm-hmm. And that stops people from, expressing yourself doesn't mean just, talking. It could mean like painting, or expression is like very vast. So when people are afraid to express themselves, it stops art from being created. Music, like think of all the amazing things that we could have if everybody was able to just fully express themselves without fear.
And like, I would even like to talk about what is the product, or you could say consequence, of not speaking up or sharing. And I think that generally leads to, in many forms, by the way, generally leads to some form of resentment or anxiousness or frustration. And then when we are out and about in our day and we have a light frustration or a light anxiety or some kind of like oppressive resentment, someone having their own day could say just that wrong thing or do just that tiny wrong action or something. And because we were in that space from not expressing ourselves over time, we may react at them or even toward ourselves and continue this downward spiral of things. And I think that having some general practice of expression or potentially reflection on our expression in whichever forms, whether it be through different mediums and art forms or through our voice or dance or whichever, we can really start to make a big, even more bigger impact in a general peacefulness and this higher world that we all talk about. This higher world is here right now. And things like expression and healthy expression and creation are definitely great foundations to start from to allow this better world that we see to really hit home and have a place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I really like what you said about, like communicating with somebody. It can build up. I know, especially like if you begin to live with somebody or, share space with them a lot. If you don't communicate your boundaries, if you don't communicate like your feelings and you just kind of like let it build up, then it will get to a point where it has to come out and maybe like an explosion happens and it just creates this big rift. But like being able to just have like an open conversation about how people are feeling. Anytime I've like been brave enough to tell somebody how one of their actions made me feel, or, maybe if they like left a bunch of dishes or something, anytime I like open myself up, like let go of any fear of what they might say back and just like came out with it, it helped the situation so much. It's really incredible how much, sharing these thoughts and these feelings and using your voice. It's really healing to be able to do that. And like, you had mentioned before we began the podcast with Breezy, like sharing her post about that is, it goes right along with what we're saying. So, I think it's really kind of magical how healing this all is.
Yeah, and how beautiful, healing, and empowering it could be. It almost begs the question, why is it not that already? Why is it not such a commonplace? And maybe it is in some places, but also a little theme through our past few gatherings was a topic of trauma. And just to briefly touch upon that one more time here, trauma really plays a part in expression as well, because before we manifest a voice, there are feelings and emotions and thoughts there generally, and maybe we just don't know how to express. Maybe we aren't skilled in communication, and right there is a great place to start. We can literally say that out loud to whoever or whatever. And right there, maximum healing, because then we can let them know where we're at and things of that nature. And if we're talking about artwork or something and we really want to start expressing ourselves there, let's say we're journaling, write that down, start there. Let's say we're painting, maybe feel a feeling inside or start painting those words, or paint something or draw something that looks like a blockage or something. And right there we can use our limitation or what we may think as our shortcoming as that leap into the cold water where we can then begin that open space where all is possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It is an interesting thing to think about. Like, why isn't this more normalized? And I'm kind of, I feel like my parents had a lot to do with, me being so shy and unwilling to share how I feel with others. I don't think that, in my household, we really cultivated a lot of healthy communication. Like, my mom was usually gone. My dad wasn't the best at communicating. In order to express himself, he had to write a note, and he wasn't always willing to write it out. So, sometimes things just went unsaid, and it was just, kind of awkward. And I think that kind of played a part into my adulthood being more shy. So I had to go through a bunch of experiences to be more open, to talk about how I feel. And, sometimes when you share your story, you share your voice, you tell people how you feel, like, you might not get a good reaction, but I think I want people to understand that when you share your story, when you share your voice, you're not sharing it for other people, you're sharing it for yourself. And even if people react harshly to it, it's so worth saying it because it's important to you and who you are. And that's how you find out, like, who you really resonate with and who, maybe you want to be around more. It's people who are willing to accept your truth and still show you love and support.
Yes. It's like, we got to ask ourselves, did we say that so they could feel good? Or did we say that because we needed to say it, or we wanted to say it because we wanted to converse in some way? Like, it's so interesting. Well, I want to touch on this first. I'd like to ask, like, what was both your parents' like general personalities outside of those crucial conversations that might have been difficult to have?
Well, I would say my dad he's a very silly man, very comical, and he's like just a really silly, funny person, except that he had this anger problem that I believe he received from his father, because my dad's dad was super, super abusive and ended up leaving all of his kids when they were still pretty young. So he had a lot of trauma. But, he was either angry or silly.
And how was your mom? Was she perhaps more like reserved and grounded?
I don't think I would say that. She was definitely more grounded. She was very, I would say, like, serious about what we needed to learn. So if there was a lesson that I needed to learn, she was kind of vicious, when she was teaching me lessons.
You're gonna get it.
Yeah,
you're gonna get it if it's the last thing I do.
Yeah, she was awesome though. She taught me a lot of lessons. She just wasn't there very often. is the thing. She worked pretty far away, and when we were young, my mom and dad got divorced, and when they got divorced, she basically lived like far enough away that we didn't see her very often.
Right on. That had to be tough for you.
Yeah, it was. Sometimes I would like fall asleep on the top of the stairs waiting for her. And my brother Joe, when he was younger, his voice sounded like hers. So I would hear him talking sometimes, and I'd run downstairs, and it would just be him. And I'd be like,
oh. Yeah, it's and here we are today like this, and that's how things were then. And what a life, you know?
Mm-hmm. I know. It's so much has changed already since like we've been kids.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I wanted to say another thing about that first. What were we saying right before?
You're cutting out there a little bit. We got some cutting out.
Sound okay now?
Sounding better?
Okay. Let's see. Maybe that'll help.
Yeah. No, I think it was just the internet. I think it's just the internet more than anything right now. It's 2:22.
Yeah, we were saying something right before that. What'd you say?
I said it's 2:22 on my computer.
Oh, let's take a breath. Let's be a good time. Let's all connect together. Us here in the studio and y'all in the audience, whoever, wherever.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's now, later, or today. Let's all take a nice deep exhale and unify. And just all tune in to that silent expression. Where we're feeling our body and just noticing things that are there. We're feeling the clothes on our skin or the air that's there. And however we're seated, laying down, standing. Just the general sounds in the area. And then our general space around our body in all directions. And we're breathing. And we'll just very gently start to pull our attention back in. And maybe our eyes are closed. So let's very gently open our eyes back up slowly and just feel our fingers and toes. And just feel that nice space we created there. Nice. I don't know, it seems like we're definitely going to have a lot of powerful people listening to this because that was a really deep space.
Mm-hmm. I was imagining just connecting with everybody in the audience, sharing that silence, and then right before you brought us back, I just imagined everybody in a big old group hug.
Oh, those are the best. Have you ever been in one of those hugs where you kind of like fold over one another one by one, where you come in like a spiral?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think once I was like on the outskirts of it, and it looked pretty fun.
Yeah, that's silly.
Yeah, that's awesome. So have you always been more willing to kind of express yourself and share your story, Nick?
Definitely not. So just a little bit about where I come from in this body anyways. My dad was also a very similar, either silly, unable to communicate at all, or maybe like frustrated, angry. And, it's really interesting. So like, I'm 27 right now, and my father is in his very early 60s, and I think from like the early 1900s to the 1950s area and then on, it was a lot of, put your head down and work, be a man, don't feel any feelings. And I think that was the last time in our culture where the man wanted to do that. And then I think after there, perhaps starting with our parents' generation, the man wanted to, in a general sense, open up a little bit more, at least stop being so militant and stone-faced. And I think that's why our two dads, and I don't know, I'm just speculating, I think that's why our two dads really enjoyed humor, because at least they could express somehow. At least they could get the energy out somehow. And, perhaps they were just a little bit not so knowledgeable on different things like communication and feelings and emotions. And and my mom, she was like maybe a little bit too accepting. So like my dad was happy and harsh, and my mom was very loving and accepting, and maybe not disciplining enough. I'm not really sure. But anyways, I would have a lot of things that I didn't know how to express, and my dad was the kind of person who would just like give a simple answer, but like leave it up to me to learn the lesson in what he said. So it's kind of like a little mysterious. And then my mom was generally a little bit too close and too involved, and I couldn't really receive or learn in that way. So I was kind of in the middle of two extremes almost. And then I found through my life that I just kept like not really having a good skill to communicate about my feelings and things. And just now it's kind of funny. I'm literally like, I've failed so many times, I don't even care anymore. And now I'll just like fall headfirst into the cold water, and I'm like, okay, so now that I'm drowning, let's get started. And I'll just like go forward in a calm way to the best of my ability. And, talking in general is a really interesting skill to have, because we could be talking about ourselves or about someone else or things that we think or things that are happening. And it's still important to consider where the other person is at and their experience, and tying it back into what I said just a little bit ago about communicating where you're at. And even if that's saying out loud, I don't know how to communicate right now, communicating where we are at is such a tool and valuable lesson that I've learned in my life that is a remedy. And this is just my opinion. It's a remedy to any communication issue. Because if I can inform you where I'm at with an open mind and an open heart and some degree of patience, you can also use some degree of patience and an open mind and an open heart to, at the very least, let me know that you hear where I'm saying, and let me know that you also don't have the ability. And then at the very least from there, we won't like make it worse. And I think what what really maybe stifled our parents and people before us is the making it worse part. And I still deal with this today. Maybe you do as well. Like sometimes I still make things worse or say things that don't need to be said or potentially say hurtful things without wanting to, but I guess we still do want to because we say it. So I don't really know what to say about that. But like communicating where we are at, one thing, so I'm a yoga teacher and I was trained in that. And one thing that we learned there talks about opening space. And as we know, space or emptiness is also equivalent to infinite potential. So if two people communicate, two or more people, or even just like yourself with yourself, is sitting there in a communication zone and no one knows what's going on, the person who says, hey, I'm here to communicate, but I don't know what's going on, literally opens infinite potential space for both people to go any direction at all, not a direction led by pain or confusion or victim or you hurt me or I need this from you to feel good or any kind of codependence or any kind of like ego thing. And we really all can stand our ground and feel confident to go first and communicate where we are at. And by doing that, I believe that once that space is opened, others are then more able and willing to give themselves permission to also step forward, to also jump into that cold water. Because truthfully, you know, the way that we all connect is we're all dealing with the same things. And once we can get the weird stuff out of the way, we really can meet together in communication and reach the goals that we all hope and dream. And one more thing that I'd just like to add here is a good friend of mine from the past, she told me, anyone can achieve anything. It just takes a certain number of conversations. And that was quite some years ago, and I didn't really have such I didn't have this current experience of communication now that I did then, and I didn't really grasp the depth and the power of that quote. And tying that into communicating where we are at is such a powerful combination that it can be used to heal our relationships, to make new relationships, to end relationships, to reach goals, to just do so many things. And just like that story that you shared about the man at the festival, he was probably, you know, just like maybe freaking out, not really knowing what to do. And he communicated in such a way that opened up that space for not only himself, but legitimately everyone that was listening to him, and maybe everyone even in some like mile radius or whatever, just the amount of energy moved through and created in that way. And just a really powerful thing to stand our ground and go first and to communicate where we are at. And as a group, we can do that for each other so that we all feel more confident and safe to give ourselves permission to just communicate freely. And from there, I feel all the things that we may try to halt or all the things we try to hold in and protect because we're not good enough, we just stop caring and we learn as we go. We do better as we do more. End rant.
Yeah, that guy's speech was awesome, and I think when people go up and talk for the first time, it's like more raw. That speech is more raw, and they're not like, they haven't practiced it a bunch of times. It's not like just something they're saying without really feeling it, because they're feeling the emotion so intensely that their speech is raw. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's like so powerful. But like having conversations is great. I know sometimes especially when I first got here talking to Shannon, there's times where she asked me a question and I didn't have an answer. So I stopped to think about it, because when I first got here, I thought a lot before I said anything. And that goes back to like, I guess just making sure I didn't say the wrong thing or didn't want to upset her or whatever. So I'd just sit there and think, and then she would be like, so you just don't want to say anything to me? And I'm like, no, I'm trying to think. And I guess I probably could have said that to begin, like, I need to think about that. But, so like sometimes maybe if you're talking to somebody and you ask them a question, just be patient with them, because like if they're like me, sometimes they have to like process what somebody said fully and see how they feel. Like I go through a lot of my senses, because I'm like, well, I want to say how I truly feel, not just like the first thing that just pops into my head. But yeah, I think conversations that is a really awesome quote. And because like in order to get an idea done, you have to talk to somebody about it. You have to communicate with, whoever's going to make the thing or send you the parts or, help you to create that idea. So, it is kind of like an art, conversations is an art for sure.
Yes. I'm going to write that down.
Write it down.
Yeah, and so true.
Nothing.
I appreciate you sharing that about when you were first moving out there and really thinking about what you wanted to say before you say it and tuning into your senses, because you don't just want to say something. And powerful to notice and say that maybe you could have said that you were thinking as you were doing it. But it's funny, we generally don't. No one really likes to not know something, and so maybe we're busy feeling a little bit of soggy shame for not knowing something, so we don't have the ability to communicate I'm thinking, because we want to hurry up and find our answer before they lose their patience. So I think that's what a great thing to recommend, is for us all to have patience with people when we're all in a communication. And I want to tie that in. I was just talking with my mom yesterday about some things that were being communicated between her and my dad. And I was like, hey, just like slow down a little bit and be patient. You don't want to put all the blame on him, because if you take all the responsibility, I tell this to my mom, if you take all the responsibility, whatever happens between y'all is whatever happens, but at least next time you will have the ability to reach the result that you want, no matter who, what, where, when, how. And people have told me this through my life, whether I heeded their advice or not, I'll never tell. When we can take all the responsibility and being like, where could my actions have changed, or what could I have done better? Even if we did our best, considering what we could have done better does not mean we didn't do our best, and it's not a thing to be ashamed about. And it's, a little patience goes a long way, and a little communication of honesty goes a long way. And I think that's something that we didn't touch on yet, is honesty. And sometimes we don't tell the people that we are thinking right now because we're afraid to be honest. Sometimes we don't tell people how we feel because we're afraid of what they might think of themselves, what they might think of that relationship that we're sharing, whatever it is. Or perhaps we are a little scared of what they may think of us. And then how are we going to deal with that? Because I'm not really sure how I think of myself right now. And like, listen to all these excuses of the mind to not be honest. Listen to all these justifications to contract and go inward and hold things inside. And I understand, like, life is scary and hard and stuff. And that's why we have conversations like this and share in these ways, because we do want to have a community, and there's power in numbers. And when there's more people that talk about this stuff, it becomes a lot more easy to heal and to talk about. So, like, there's a lot going on, but, you know, let's all take this opportunity to just notice that we are able to be just a little bit more patient. We're able to be a little bit more honest, and it's all going to be okay because we mean well. Our hearts are in the right spot, and that's what really matters.
Mm-hmm, definitely. Anytime I've shared or confessed anything to Shannon, anytime I've confessed anything to Shannon, it's turned out to be like a really super healing experience. And it's also like a super clearing. Like, I've been in trouble a lot of times, you know, as a kid, and anytime I've like made a confession and just got it out regardless of the consequences, it was just such a weight lifted off my shoulders. My head was much more clear. And to be honest, the suffering that I went through holding something in and not confessing it was worse than any of the consequences that I got from confessing.
So true, though. So true.
It's silly. It's a silly world, but, you know, we're living in it, and all we can do is the best that we can do.
Yeah, that's for sure. I'm trying to think if there was anything recently that I, like, was holding in that I didn't confess. I'm sure there's a ton, but I just don't really know. Maybe I put myself on the spot.
Share your darkest secrets with us.
Yeah, I'm like, oh God, I'm sweating. Maybe it'll come back later.
Yes. So, what are some ways you think people can...
Don't laugh at me.
Sorry. What do you think are some things that people could do in order to feel more confident to express themselves, or to speak their truth, or to share their story?
I think a lot of people have a lot of different ways to find that power, channel that power, etc., enter that space. For me, I'm a little biased, and I feel that using the body, whether it's like going to take a nap, going into silent meditation to center all the energy, or to use movement, breath work, and exercise to have the body help us inspire these feelings of confidence. Because like if your body is exercised and you went for a jog or something, you got a sweat or something, thoughts of disempowerment and thoughts of pain cannot be there. Like when our body is at a certain vibration and our brain is running a certain frequency, certain things can't live there. Like if we have a general alkaline environment for our body, we can't get sick. So, like, what I would recommend is, over the course of a week, just look at y'all general activities, and perhaps when you wake up in the morning, add a 5-minute walk before you look at your phone. Add a couple minutes of focused breathing, or even 1 minute of focused breathing before you look at your phone. And before you go to bed at night, add in a 5-minute walk or a couple minutes of breathing, and watch it transform your life like you've never believed possible. And this is the truth. If everyone ever has 5 minutes to invest into their higher self. And something like a walk or breathing or stretching for the purpose of itself, not even for the purpose of this is making me better or whatever, but for the purpose of letting the body do its job, will change our life permanently. And because sometimes I'll get into funk, I'm just like, whatever. Or sometimes I make a mistake that I just can't forgive myself, or someone does something to me that I just can't let go of, or life is being life or whatever. And no thought or entertainment or drug or person or whatever will help me. And definitely, I've tried all of those things repeatedly. And what I've found that actually helps me to enter the place that feels like home, the place that feels like confidence, the place that feels like ability, is after I've done, like during and after I've done certain breath work or stretching or yoga or going for a run or exercising. So, sorry to be long-winded, but I would recommend using the body in those ways.
Awesome. I would concur with that. Shannon she leads this ego eradicator breathwork that is just so freaking powerful, and it feels so good. I often go for runs. I went for a run this morning and it made me feel really good too. It's like, I said in a different episode where it's like my foundation for if I have a busy day or I got a lot to do, I'll go for a run and then I'll just feel way more confident throughout my whole day because I know, I got a really good run in. I did some really good prayers in the woods, etc. For others, I know like Shannon, she really loves like dressing up and looking really nice and getting photos taken. So for any like females or even males who enjoy that, that's like a good way to feel more confident, is just getting really nice pictures taken. And there's a bunch of other ways for confidence, for you to grow your confidence. And I think it just matters what you're into. Like you said, exercising or even just walking. The Celtics have they call it hill walking, where they go for walks and they just like are in nature and they allow nature to take away all their problems, all their stress, mental conflicts and whatnot. And one guy in the book that I read says that you can walk away all of your illnesses, all of your problems, and going for a nature walk just for a few minutes, like it's astounding. So that can help you be grounded, be more confident, get rid of any kind of problems that you have in your head, any negative emotions that maybe stop you from expressing yourself. I would just say find whatever you can do that is a form of expression that makes you feel really good, whether it's painting, writing, talking, any of that. Like, just go for it. Don't fear, don't have any fear about what it's going to look like, how it's going to turn out. I think the most important thing in this life is just showing up, even if you don't know what to do yet. Just continue to show up, and I promise everything will work out as long as you have that intention within you while you're exploring and, experimenting with all the different forms of expression out there.
I don't know about y'all tuning in, but that just put a big old smile on my face.
Good.
And I wish we were kind of in a live chat right now, because I would ask everyone to type in or send in what whoever would like to share what helps them into confidence. Because when you shared with me about dressing up and Shannon dressing up and taking pictures and how that really touches a sweet spot in her soul, that's so true. So many, and I didn't even think of that. And I didn't even think that doing these podcasts also does that for me. I come in here and sure, I have my notes and stuff, and I think about these certain topics in my life anyway, but I generally kind of jump in and want to talk off the cuff. I don't really want to talk from notes and stuff because I want to learn too. You and I may be up here as like, someone may look at us as authorities or something, or like higher knowledge on something, but like I'm learning just as much as anyone. And I just really appreciate the diversity of all the different people and how they connect with their self, because I feel that, maybe some people don't know how to access their confidence, or maybe some people only have like one avenue or a small number of avenues to get there. And this is another great topic to chat about, because I feel that through sharing and speaking about these things with our voice can just unlock so much, and just what a great thing.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. So if anybody does have like a different form that we didn't let's talk about, or anything, like post it in the comment wherever you're listening. And maybe if we keep this consistent, we keep it going, maybe we can do some live shows with everybody.
Cool. Yeah, let's keep an open mind for it.
Awesome. Well, I'm curious if you have anything else left you want to say. I was going to play a meditation for everybody at the end, like we have the last few episodes, but any final thoughts before we did that?
Just one last impromptu fun thing, just because I'm annoying. I got another homework for us all, and I think it's a little something special just for each of us individually, if we so choose to just try something out in a relationship with ourselves. And all I ask is that you go in front of a mirror and just repeat a couple affirmations and see how they feel, whether it's like in your mind or out loud with your voice, in honor of our topic of discussion today. Perhaps we can use this with our voice. So just go in front of a mirror, 2, 3, 4, and we're just going to say a couple things here, and we're going to look into our eyes in the mirror, and we're going to say, I can, I will, I must. My name is Nick, but you use your name.
Selomon.
And I am beautiful. I can, I will, I must. My name is Nick, and I am beautiful. I can, I will, I must. And these words are just powerful words that allows our mind and heart to open. They don't necessarily have to mean anything. We don't have to be really talking about anything. Just the vibration and our body and our mouth and our vocal cords using these things. So if anyone cares to use that homework, I will be collecting our papers next week.
Professor Nick over here.
I just also want to say that before we head into that, I just really appreciate this space of communication, this space of using our voice, and this community where we are all encouraged to grow into our highest version. And I do view this type of thing as a practice. So I just want to say thank you all for joining me today with this practice and these things that are helping us all grow as individuals and truly revealing our future and the world that the world that maybe most of us want to live in.
Beautiful. Well, I appreciate having you back on. It's been awesome doing these episodes, and thank you everybody for listening. We're going to end the episode with a guided meditation. So thanks for tuning in. If you do have any thoughts, please share them with us. We'd love to hear from you, and just enjoy this meditation and have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
You are the one who must claim your power. You are the only one who can share your story. No one else can do that for you. In this meditation, you will gain access to the power within you to follow your life's purpose. And that includes learning how to express yourself and stand your ground. So take a moment to forgive yourself and any others for moments that you weren't able to stand your ground or express yourself fully. Feel yourself really claiming your true power, claiming your story. You are a divine and magical soul that is a reflection of the divine. See if you can tune in to the feeling of claiming your power. Continuing to do this meditation more and more, you will begin to feel all of this physically and spiritually. To create a moment in your mind using that amazing imagination of yours. So create a moment that maybe a block comes up. You find yourself struggling to hold your power. You find yourself struggling to continue to share your story. In this moment that you're creating, you find it hard to express yourself. Imagine that moment for a second. And the fun part is coming up, I promise. So in this moment that you created where you experienced some kind of blockage or struggle, just accept this moment. Accept all of it without attaching any emotions, any kind of feelings to it. Send love to yourself in this moment and say everything is okay. Now imagine that this version of you has a superpower. This superpower helps you to claim your true power. just open up and imagine whatever kind of superpower first comes up to you. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Imagine now with this superpower you're able to overcome that obstacle. Think about the reward that you would feel from overcoming it. Now you are stronger, more true to your real self. Bask in this for a moment before the final part of this meditation. Before we end, repeat these affirmations along with me in your mind or out loud. Everything unfolding now is helping me to realize my true power and potential. Everything unfolding now is helping me to realize my true power and potential. Everything unfolding now is helping me to realize my true power and potential. I am free to be me. I am free to be me. It is healthy for me to stand my ground when necessary. It is healthy for me to stand my ground when necessary. It is healthy for me to stand my ground when necessary. I am transforming my spirit, mind, and body in miraculous ways. I am transforming my spirit, mind, and body in miraculous ways. I am able to express myself with confidence. I am able to express myself with confidence. I am able to express myself with confidence. Now end the meditation by connecting into your physical body. Take a deep inhale and a deep exhale. Gently open your eyes. Thank you all for joining me in this practice. I appreciate you all so much. Feel free to let me know how this meditation was for you. I'd love to hear from you. Check back every Monday for a new meditation guided by me, Selomon. Have a great day, and namaste.